Welcome and settle in as we drift, calmly and quietly, into the chilled and steady heart of a supercomputer, where long lines of patient tasks wait their turn, and the slow, dependable hush of liquid cooling sets the pace. If you feel comfortable, you can like this video, subscribe for more gentle science, and follow the playlist in the description so the learning can continue softly in the background as you rest. What city/country are you watching from right now? Imagine yourself standing at the threshold of a vast room that hums without haste. The air is cool and dry, like early morning in a library before the doors open. Lights are dim and even, nothing harsh, nothing glaring. Tall racks stand in calm rows, not imposing, simply present, like quietly attentive sentinels. The supercomputer is awake, but not excited, aware, but not restless. A faint vibration seems to pass through the floor and into your feet, a smooth, unhurried sensation, as if a large, sleeping creature is breathing, slow and regular. You find yourself breathing the same way, matched to this gentle rhythm, in and out, steady and soft. You approach a rack and notice small points of light, faint greens and blues, like tiny stars. Cables, carefully guided in patient arcs, travel from node to node, from switch to switch, making reliable pathways. These cables do not rush, they do not jostle. Data makes its way through them like a quiet train at night, lights dimmed, passengers hushed, gliding from one stop to the next. The air carries a subtle scent of clean metal, of plastic just warm enough to soften, and of water that has been stripped of its minerals, a sterile neutrality that smells like nothing at all. And somehow, that too is comforting. You listen, and the sound is not the shout of fans, but the murmur of pumps. Liquid cooling is at work here, patient and repetitive. Coolant, often water that has been carefully prepared, or sometimes a gentle dielectric fluid, travels through thin channels and cold plates. It passes over processors and memory chips, flows through micro-finned surfaces, where heat moves from the busy silicon into the calm stream. The liquid does not mind that the heat is there. It accepts it, carries it, and takes it away to a heat exchanger where the warmth is eased into another loop or into a building-wide system, and then, by degrees, into the outside world. The cycle repeats, without complaint, without hurry, like a tide that knows exactly when to arrive and when to leave. Imagine your perspective shifting closer, shrinking down to the scale of the pathways carved inside a cold plate. A shallow maze opens up. Channels fork and rejoin, gentle branches and return paths. The coolant moves, laminar and smooth, with hardly a ripple, like a river that has known its bed for ages. It does not crash into corners. It guides itself, following the lines that were etched for it at the time of manufacture, when an engineer decided the simplest routes for the most even flow. The metal is cool to the touch. The temperature is almost monotone by design. A few degrees of difference across the path, nothing more. In this steadiness, the processes can work without excitement. No bursts of heat that force a gasp from the system. Only a slow exchange that barely disturbs the silence. The processes themselves, behind their silent lids, are gently busy. Inside a chip, the dance of computation unfolds with impeccable timing, twitching, arithmetic, memory retrieval, and logic decisions. Yet the result here is comfortingly repetitive. Operations are measured against a clock that ticks so fast you cannot feel it. And still, to the human mind, the overall impression is stillness. Work is going on, but it is paced by rules that prevent turbulence. Thermal sensors watch with unemotional care, modulating flow rates and pump speeds, adjusting valves in small increments. The coolant loop is a lullaby of control theory, a balance of set points and feedback, proportional adjustments, integrators smoothing out deviations over minutes, not seconds. Now your attention moves to the job scheduler, the quiet librarian of this machine's time. In another room, or perhaps in a virtual corner of the same space, the queue is forming. Thousands of jobs, some small, some large, many more or less the same, line up like travelers at a peaceful train station. Each job carries a ticket with requirements written in a calm, precise hand. A few processes, or many, a little memory, or a lot. A time limit measured in minutes, or in hours, or in days. It is all very ordinary, very specific, and very unemotional. The scheduler considers these requests without judgment, with algorithms that have no drama. Policies like fair share or first come first served, shaped by backfilling, weave together to decide who goes next and where they go. Nothing feels unfair in this narrative, just the gentle arithmetic of turn-taking. Imagine yourself as one of these jobs, a simple program that needs to run for a while. You have a name, a script, a few input files, and you declare that you expect to use a certain number of cores. You imagine a reasonable estimate of your duration. You submit, and then you wait. The waiting is not tense. It is slow and almost meditative. The queue advances by tiny increments. Time passes softly. You are aware that some jobs hold reservations for large clusters of nodes, and their pieces are arranged carefully so they can begin together, like a choir that must have every voice ready at once. Backfilling threads, more short tasks into gaps, so the machine remains steadily occupied. It is as if the scheduler were knitting a scarf of time, finding space for each row, each stitch, with a soothing repetition. While you wait, you drift back into the machine and sense the reservoirs that feed the coolant loops. There is a faint vibration here too, a slow, velvety rumble from pumps that are not straining. Pressure gauges are quiet eyes that monitor without fuss. Flow meters offer their continuous whisper of numbers, stable, relaxing streams of digits. Occasionally, a valve shifts position, Not a click, but a soft turn, adjusting balance. The temperatures at the inlets and outlets differ by a small amount, and this difference is the story of the machine's day. Warmth is carried away, coolness is delivered. The monotone chill continues, a constant presence like a gentle winter that never becomes harsh. You step along a service aisle, the floor beneath you composed of clever tiles with unseen channels that help guide air or support cabling. Even though the primary cooling is liquid, there is still a room-level airflow that is simple and steady, just enough to keep the ambient environment stable. The lights above hum with an indistinct tone, blending into the unified background. Your footsteps are muted. The racks do not need your attention. Most days, everything is fine because the system was built to be uneventful, to be comfortable doing the same ordinary things over and over, day after day, night after night. You find quiet pleasure in that predictability. In your imagination, you open the front of a node in your mind's eye, not to interfere, only to look gently. The cold plate rests upon the processor. Memory modules stand in small rows, each with its own role, each indistinguishable to the casual glance, like books in matching bindings. The board presents delicate traces, pathways in copper that stretch and curve with measured intention. A network card waits for packets with patient skill. The cables that lead outward hold steady in their sockets, neither too loose nor too tight. Not a single piece is out of place, because the design is a lullaby of order. Even the screws are in the right spots, seated with calm torque, never hurried. You think about the network that ties all these nodes together, not as a busy highway, but as a set of silent corridors connecting quiet rooms. The topology might be a fat tree, or a dragonfly, or some other thoughtful shape, but the feeling is the same. Packets find their way without anyone raising a voice. The switches push data along, port to port, link to link, with the softness of a conveyor moving fresh linen. Latency is low, jitter is minimal, and the regularity is restful. Synchronization points in parallel programs are like deep breaths. Processes arrive, pause, and proceed together again, in long cycles that now feel like the turning of a tide, now like the passing of gentle clouds. The job scheduler checks the time again. It moves one job forward, then another. A large job that requested many nodes finally finds its window, carefully arranged by earlier decisions. The system drains a few nodes from small tasks, not abruptly, but in a planned way, so the big job can run without interruption. Draining is a word that echoes the cooling loop, and in both contexts, the theme is the same. Quiet flow, smooth transitions, no sudden shocks. The big job begins, not with a shout, but with a slow ignition. Processes launched, ranks established, data distributed. Every step is predictable. Every step is calm. You imagine the data being read from storage. Large arrays sit on shelves of disks or solid-state devices. The storage servers accept requests and answer them in order. Stripe patterns spread the data out. Checksums watch over everything. And background scrubbing happens like gentle housekeeping. When parts of the storage need rest or replacement, the system prepares, one small piece at a time. Nothing is rushed. The IRO patterns of different jobs intersect with the easy politeness of people moving in a wide, uncluttered hallway. Bandwidth is balanced by policies that ensure no single job can be too demanding for too long. The whole operation resembles a library where every visitor gets what they need without noise. At intervals, technicians perform maintenance. They wear comfortable shoes and carry tools that make soft sounds. Panels are opened and closed with gentle clicks. Firmware updates are applied at times chosen to avoid disturbance, rolling through nodes in a pattern that keeps the system productive. A failed component is removed without ceremony and replaced by a healthy one. Then the system slowly redistributes workloads to bring balance back. In your mind, you watch it like a gardener pruning a branch, shaping for health and symmetry. Racks are cleaned to keep dust from settling. Labels are tidy. Documentation rests like a bound chronicle of small, careful acts. Outside the racks, the building's cooling plant continues its unending loop. Heat exchangers accept warmth from the computer and pass it along to other circuits. There may be a cooling tower where water shares its heat with the air. There may be a chiller, humming in the distance like a big cat dozing in the sun. Regardless of the exact arrangement, the principle is simple and soothing. Flow carries warmth away. Flow returns with cool. Temperatures change slowly, as if by the lightest pressure on a dimmer switch, and the system watches itself with sensors placed in thoughtful spots. Control software holds everything inside narrow bands, gradually nudging levers to keep every dial within its preferred range. In this place, the vocabulary of the day is gentle. We speak of set points, thresholds, schedules, reservations, and corridors. We speak of queue depth and arrival rates, but not as storms or floods, only as the measured pace of life. If a busy period comes, the machine is not surprised. It takes on the additional work with the same regular rhythm, finding new paths, backfilling where it can, delaying some tasks with polite apologies. Jobs do not mind waiting. They were written to wait, to accept their time when it arrives. Users understand too. They request fair resources, note their expected durations, and let the scheduler weave the fabric of the day. Imagine yourself drifting through a manifold, a gentle collection of pipes that gather coolant from many nodes and return it gracefully to the central loop. The manifold is not rushed. Some channels bring slightly warmer liquid, some slightly cooler. They join, and the temperature evens out, becoming calm again, monotone again. Noise-cancelling literature describes the sounds that are easiest to rest with as broadband, soft, and even. The sound of this place, if you could listen closely, is a practical version of that description. A consistent murmur with subtle textures, always similar, never sharp, like a distant sea heard through a well-sealed window. As the hours pass, the queue shifts. Nighttime in one region becomes daytime in another. Some users submit jobs that will run for days, exploring a parameter space with patient breadth. Others launch many small jobs, a tidy array for testing or incremental results. The scheduler handles both with the same kind attention. It may keep accounts of historical usage, ensuring fairness over time. It may adjust priorities a little here, a little there, gracefully honoring agreed policies. If a deadline job appears, the system makes room quietly, pushing a few flexible tasks into later slots so the time-critical work can complete. You watch this with the distant appreciation one has for someone who is very good at their craft, always calm, always consistent. Inside a node, memory is being accessed at a steady pace. Each request has a place to go. Caches catch what they can, organizing recent information at arm's reach, saving time in small, reassuring increments. Algorithms that run here are full of loops, nested and regular, walking through arrays, applying operations, computing stencils, multiplying matrices. The repetition is meditative. You imagine the rows and columns as a field of wheat swaying under an even breeze, the calculations passing over them like a shadow that never startles. When communication between nodes is needed, messages move in predictable patterns. A few bytes here, a few megabytes there, always careful, always on time. The cold plates have their own geometry, shaped through careful experimentation to keep temperatures low without turbulence. Microchannels etched into copper or aluminum present ridges and valleys. Thermal interfaces are applied with steady hands so that tiny gaps are filled and heat can move without effort. When you hold that image, it is easy to feel your own muscles loosen, as if your body also wants to present no resistance to anything, to let warmth pass out into the air, into the sheets, into the night, leaving only a restful, even presence. The monitoring systems maintain their watch in the background. Logs are written, a slow cascade of entries noting temperatures, pressures, flow rates, job starts and finishes, network errors that are rare and corrected quickly. Alerts are configured to a modest threshold, so only truly important deviations rise to the surface. A dashboard shows a constellation of small charts, each line a gentle slope here, a flat stretch there. A human glances at it from time to time, nodding at the unremarkable regularity. The machine is fine. The queue is moving. The coolant is cold. The rhythm continues. Imagine the scheduler's logic as a set of rooms with doors connecting them. Jobs enter a foyer where they are classified by size and expected duration. Some are ushered into a hall where they wait for a particular type of node. Others are invited to a space where they can run as soon as any resource opens. It is not a maze, more like a quiet clinic, each patient understood, each plan mapped out. Backfilling is a small kindness, slipping shorter jobs into the gaps between reservations. the way one might place small stones between larger ones in a garden path, filling space, making the design whole and pleasing. You sit in a calm corner and read a job submission script written in a clear, modest style. It requests resources politely, specifies the modules to load, defines an output path for logs. It uses a scheduler directive to request a wall time with enough cushion but not excess. It loads the program, passes in parameters, and waits. When the job finishes, it writes a simple message, completed without error. The output is clean, formatted for later analysis. It is easy to imagine this script running many times, run after run, night after night, like a ritual that becomes smoother with each repetition. Now your awareness drifts to the cables once more, noticing their weave. Network cables have locking tabs that make a soft click, a sound that indicates security. Power cables are thicker, with reassuring connectors that do not wiggle. Management cables connect to a lower bandwidth network that is no less important, carrying the quiet signals that keep the system well informed. Each cable is labeled, the labels aligned, the fonts chosen for legibility. It is a subtle aesthetic, the kind that creates calm by making decisions in advance, so that when the moment comes, there is no confusion. Everything goes where it should, and nothing needs to be forced. At the heart of the cooling distribution, a set of pumps runs in parallel. Redundancy is present here as a form of serenity. If one pump needs a rest, another supports the flow without complaint. The transitions between them are smooth, perhaps even invisible to the flow itself. Bearings are lubricated, impellers turn without wobble, and noise remains in the background, more felt than heard. Flow sensors return their numbers, each stable, each like a line on paper that barely moves. Temperatures at the inlet and outlet might differ only by a few degrees, enough to confirm that the heat is being collected and transported, not enough to create distress. You think about how the scheduler occasionally performs a draining process for planned maintenance. Nodes are set to a draining state, which simply means they will not take new jobs that exceed the time available before the maintenance window. Over time, as longer jobs complete, the nodes empty, and the maintenance can occur without interruption. The draining echoes the notion of water levels slowly lowering in a gentle basin before cleaning, a respectful and patient preparation. When maintenance is complete, nodes return to service, adding their quiet strength back to the whole, and the queue feels that addition like a small, welcome breeze. A day in this machine is very long and very even. There are no holidays here, no weekends, though there are maintenance windows where the world contracts for a while and then expands again. In a way, the supercomputer lives outside that human calendar and moves to the clock of its own slow rhythms. The coolant circulation, the periodicity of job arrivals from time zones that roll past like calm waves, the rotation of data archiving tasks that write bundles of results to deeper storage. Backups happen behind the scenes, their bandwidth limited so they do not disturb the ongoing work. Their logs informing administrators that all is well. Imagine a user sitting at a desk somewhere, composing a batch script in the quiet of a late evening. They compile a code, run a small test, and then submit a large job. They watch the queue and see their job's position inch forward with reassuring predictability. Then they sleep. The machine does not mind their absence. It continues the work, making sure no one job uses too much, making sure idle cycles are minimized, but not at the cost of fairness. The scheduler has a memory of past usage and tries to equalize opportunities. Over time, the queue length may ebb and flow, but the system never loses its unhurried character. It is built to be calm. Deep inside, the processors are arranged in sockets, each socket holding multiple cores, each core ready to execute threads or processes. The cache hierarchy is like a set of nested bowls that keep important things close at hand. The logic units handle their operations with tiny, perfectly repeatable steps. Vector units perform the same operation on multiple data elements, a repetitive action that is pleasing in its consistency. Memory reads and writes form patterns. The access streams recognize predictable strides. When the code is vectorized well, the operations become even more uniform, reducing unnecessary branching, smoothing timing, creating a flow that is less chaotic and more like a slow chant. The cooling plates draw your attention again. Their mounts are spring-loaded, applying carefully calibrated pressure so that the interface is even, the contact robust, but gentle. No one tightens a screw too far. No one rushes. When new hardware is installed, it is tested at low load, then higher, watching temperatures over time. The results settle into a narrow band, and that band becomes a reference. In later weeks and months, a small shift may be noticed, perhaps a degree warmer, and a technician might clean an air filter or flush a coolant line, always using mild force. The goal is to keep the monotone cold monotone, to mute any variables that might try to sing too loudly. You imagine the logs of the job scheduler too, the lines of text that record the life of the queue. A job is submitted. A few minutes pass. Another job begins. A large job waits for resources and then starts at a precise time chosen for minimal disruption. A job is cancelled politely when its owner noticed a parameter was set incorrectly. Another, a small test, finishes almost immediately. The scheduler is never surprised. It registers and responds. The human administrators review these logs slowly, sipping a warm drink, unconcerned. They know where to look if something seems unusual, but such moments are rare, and when they occur, they are addressed with experience, and the rhythm resumes. Inside the machine room, the lighting system adjusts through the day, never much brighter or dimmer than it needs to be, but always enough to walk safely. Small displays embedded on the racks show status with tasteful restraint. A green line for temperature, a blue bar for flow, a number for utilization. They change so slowly that you cannot watch them change. You revisit and notice they are a little different than before, like the hands of a clock that never jump. The sense of time here is elastic. Minutes can feel long in the best way, cushioned, easy. If you concentrate, you can imagine the chips themselves, their transistors switching, billions upon billions of motions each second, and yet you feel no agitation. The absolute scale of that switching is great, but the relative sense is still calm, because all of it is orchestrated and bounded. Each unit does what it is supposed to do. Power delivery networks on the board supply voltage with gentle stability, capacitors smoothing ripples, voltage regulators stepping down with measured efficiency. The power rails do not sag or spike. They are quiet streams that feed reliable fields. In another quiet corner, the building's water treatment unit keeps the coolant pure, removing ions that could encourage corrosion, filtering particulate, monitoring pH. The water is not just water, but a carefully prepared medium. Sometimes, if immersion cooling is used, the liquid is a specialized fluid that does not conduct electricity at all, allowing whole boards to rest beneath the surface like sunken gardens without harm. The fluid there is motionless on top, a glassy plane, but below, a soft convection carries heat upward, and pumps circulate it through heat exchangers. You imagine yourself suspended in that liquid, weightless and serene, hearing only the softened echoes of the room, seeing the ripple of light. Above you, the network fabric continues its quiet duty. It routes messages according to algorithms that are proven and considerate. Congestion control engages gently to avoid contention. When two flows meet, they share the path. When they part, each finds its own pace again. Packet loss is rare, and when it occurs, retransmission is quick and forgiving. Every mechanism is designed to avoid drama, to resolve conflicts before they become noticeable. It is like a city with spacious streets and courteous drivers, where every turn is signaled and no horn is ever needed. Sitting at a console, you type a command to check the queue, and the response arrives like a calm inventory. There are jobs running. There are jobs pending. Their priorities are listed. Their expected start times predicted. The predictions do not have to be perfect to be useful. They offer an outline of the day, a shape you can understand. You feel no need to refresh the screen constantly. You know the schedule will take care of itself. You take a breath, and the breath is matched by the slow pulse of cool water moving through the machine, taking heat away, bringing calm back. From time to time, a benchmark runs, not to show off, simply to verify that performance is where it should be. The numbers appear on a chart, and they are steady. No spikes, no dips, just a lane where the results travel, shoulder to shoulder, uniform and predictable. The administrators nod. The cooling system responds as it should, keeping temperatures in the desired ranges, maintaining delta T's that are neither too large nor too small. Everything is in tune. The soundtrack remains the same, a mild, even hum. Still awake? Comment the secret word, nebula. Now the night deepens, and you imagine the supercomputer as a landscape under a light snowfall of computations, each one small and granular, but together forming an even blanket. Where jobs start, the snow becomes fresh. Where jobs complete, the surface smooths, ready for the next layer. Underneath, the coolant continues its circuit. The pumps continue their turning. The heat exchangers continue their uncomplaining exchange. The scheduler's flow feels like a pendulum that swings with patience, never too far, never too fast. Your awareness moves into the energy side of the story, and you feel how power construction in the building softens the outside world's fluctuations. Feeders are redundant. UPS units hold a reserve that is steady, and batteries are kept at an easy state of charge, standing by but never strained. If the building must shift from one source to another, the transition is practiced and rehearsed, the kind of choreography that people perform with muscle memory. Inside the racks, the power distribution is similarly regular, with bus bars that carry current along quiet paths and breaker panels that separate responsibilities, creating compartments of reliability. This environment has its own measured climate. Relative humidity is held in a comfortable range so that static remains a non-issue and condensation never accumulates. Temperature is set to what the chips need, not too cold, not warm, just right. And this setting changes only a little with the seasons, a few degrees at most. The external weather is kept outside. The internal weather is crafted. Even the light in the room is a kind of climate, and it is soft. You imagine the comfort of that. In your mind, you return to a single job running on a set of nodes. The processes talk to each other occasionally, exchanging boundary data or synchronizing after a long compute phase. When they reach a barrier, you imagine them as walkers arriving at a gentle resting point on a circular path, waiting until everyone is there, then setting out again together. No one worries about being early or late. The pace is assured. If one process lags, the others do not scold. They wait and then proceed with the same measured cadence. Error checking is built in, letting the program fix small issues quietly, freeing the humans from unnecessary attention. Back at the manifold, the coolant runs through a heat exchanger where it meets another loop that carries away the collected warmth. The plates inside the heat exchanger are stacked like pages in a book. The fluids pass on either side of these plates, and heat crosses the boundary smoothly. The temperature gradient is small. The pressure is stable. The metal does its job with dignified anonymity. No one applauds it, but you might as well, in your heart, because it is the unseen hero of this tranquility, making it possible for the machine to keep its promise of quiet performance. Somewhere in the building, a monitoring screen notes that ambient sound is low, lighting is normal. Door sensors show the room is closed to unnecessary traffic. The camera image is unremarkable, which is a sign of success. The supercomputer does not need an audience. It prefers to be left alone to its work, and in that privacy, it finds its perfection, focusing on the repetition of simple cycles: computing, cooling, scheduling, switching, storing, returning. You can almost feel the pattern in your fingertips if you place your hand near a rack, the mild, constant vibration that indicates life, steady and unexcited. From this vantage point, you can appreciate the journey of a job from the moment of submission to the moment of completion. First, it enters the queue, where it waits with others in quiet companionship. The scheduler evaluates its needs and matches them to resources that will become available. Time passes like slow water in a wide river, and then, at the planned moment, the job begins. It runs for as long as it needs, writing logs, perhaps generating files, perhaps sending modest messages to its neighbors. When it is done, it exits, its return value calm, its output stored. The results now belong to a human who might look at them tomorrow or next week with patience and curiosity. You visualize the monitoring graphs that track job durations over weeks and months. You notice the patterns: more jobs in some seasons, fewer in others, yet never an abrupt change. The ebb and flow are tidal, not storm-driven. Administrators use this information to plan expansions, to adjust policies, to make sure that resources are used in a balanced way. They consider upgrading components with care, scheduling the changes to have minimal impact. When a major upgrade occurs, the machine returns to service and resumes its same calm rhythm, perhaps with a slightly different pitch, a slightly different flow, but recognizably itself. Each material in this place has a reason for being chosen. The metals conduct heat and electricity the way they should, without surprises. The plastics insulate and protect. The cooling liquid respects its path, and in return, the path respects the liquid. The floor dulls footsteps. The ceiling distributes light evenly. Even the paint on the walls is selected to be easy on the eyes and easy to clean, a quiet white or a gentle grey. You get the sense that nothing here is accidental. Every sign, every label, every colour, striping on a cable follows a standard. Standards are soothing in this context. They remove doubt. They reduce the likelihood of conflict. They let people move slowly and exactly. Consider for a moment the software side of the scheduler. It accepts commands with calm predictability. It stores state in a database that is backed up regularly, snapshots taken at intervals, so that if anything goes wrong, recovery is straightforward. The scheduler's internal loop wakes and sleeps, checking the queue, starting jobs, accounting for resource usage, updating logs. The act of waking is not dramatic. It is a quiet decision, the next small step, one among many, and it repeats forever. The version number increments after modest changes, each release approved after testing, each improvement a minor refinement. Over time, it becomes a stable friend. Within the racks, sensors measure not only temperatures and flow, but also vibration, humidity, and even the presence of leak detection fluids. If a leak were to occur, a soft alert would register, a plan would be enacted, and the situation would be addressed with unflappable calm. The materials are chosen to discourage such events. The fittings are tightened properly. Gaskets are replaced at regular intervals. Hoses and tubing are inspected by people who have done this many times. In a way, the act of inspection is as soothing as the machine itself, a repeating pattern where careful eyes look for small deviations and often find none. The monotone cold is a phrase that feels fitting here. It is a peaceful monotone, not flat in a dull way, but constant in a comforting way, like a faithful instrument holding a note beneath a melody. The melody is the computation, ever changing, sometimes quick, sometimes slow. The cold is the pedal tone that keeps everything grounded. When heat is produced, the cold absorbs it. When heat lessens, the cold remains, waiting. This waiting is a kindness. It gives the system the ability to be patient, letting the scheduler do its work without worry that temperature will wander. Every part can rest in the certainty that time, temperature, and flow will behave. You walk in your imagination to a quiet corner where a person might sit and write a note to themselves, a reminder to check the filtering schedule, a request to update documentation, a to-do item about measuring the age of thermal paste applied to a set of CPUs. These notes are small threads that weave into the fabric of the machine's story. None of them are urgent tonight. They will be handled tomorrow or the day after. The machine does not mind waiting. If there is an occasional late night, no one mentions it. The overall cadence remains gentle. Sometimes, new users arrive and learn the system. They watch a tutorial and submit their first small job. They feel a quiet satisfaction when it runs. They scale up carefully. They learn how to request resources efficiently. They watch the queue as the scheduler treats their job fairly. Over time, they become part of the place's rhythm, and their jobs join the others in the line, contributing to the day's pace. The documentation that guided them is written in a voice like this one, calm and clear, with an emphasis on predictability over performance bravado. Performance is there, of course. It is merely expressed with dignity. You can sense how the network's cables carry signals that obey the laws of timing and impedance. The tiny details of waveforms reflect off the smallest discontinuities, and yet the system is designed to minimize these echoes. The result is a clarity that does not need fuss. When a cable is replaced, it is not because something dramatic happened, but because every component has a lifespan, and replacing it before any failure is simply part of the routine. The new cable is like the old one, and everything continues as before. Replacement cycles provide a rhythm to the calendar, another series of quiet steps. Returning to the coolant, you picture its coloration. It may be clear as glass, or it may be tinted faintly to help detect leaks more easily. In either case, it flows as if it were always meant to, passing over surfaces that are always clean. When the loop is first filled, air is purged slowly, bubbles captured and released, until the flow is pure. Later, if any air is introduced, it is removed with equal patience. Air traps do their job. The system remains full and consistent. The sounds that accompany this are minute. A whisper as a bubble is guided upward, a small clink as it reaches a reservoir and dissolves into the larger volume. The storage system feels like the machine's memory of longer timescales. Cache layers give recently used data quick paths. Object stores or file systems designed for parallel access lay data out in predictable stripes, enabling many clients to read in harmony. When a user opens a large file, multiple servers serve pieces simultaneously, their work coordinated. Throughput is significant but understated, no single part needing to draw attention to itself. Rebalancing operations occur in the background so that no one shelf is overused. When a drive approaches the end of its expected life, a replacement is planned. The rebuild happens with steady progress, and when it completes, a small note is made in a log, and the day goes on. Here, you sense the people who care for this system not as stressed custodians, but as calm stewards. They plan their work, set limits, build checklists, and keep schedules. They speak in low voices and make decisions thoughtfully. When they touch the hardware, they ground themselves, not only electrically, but emotionally, reaching a mental stillness that aligns with the machine's stillness. They like that the system is predictable. They like that the coolant temperature is a number that does not change much. They like that the scheduler responds to commands, and that the logs show the steady march of jobs, starting and finishing. In this supercomputer, the long queues of tasks are not a sign of frustration. They are a sign of lively productivity paced by patience. Every job moves forward in its time, and the machine gives each the same quiet attention. The monotone cold of the liquid cooling is not a design compromise. It is a design triumph, turning heat into a routine procedure that never intrudes on the experience. You find comfort in that notion, knowing that complexity has been organized into a soft and steady pattern. The machine is vast, but it behaves like a small room filled with trustworthy routines. Now, think of the day's turn into night, and night into day. Somewhere, a sunrise warms a window, and elsewhere, a sunset cools a street. But here, inside the machine, temperatures hold like a sustained chord. The queue has swelled a little, then shrunk, then swelled again, and through it all, the scheduler has done what it does, backfilling small tasks in between larger ones. carefully making space for array jobs that need synchronized starts. A job that requested a GPU found its way to a node with that capability. A job that needed high memory waited a bit longer and then ran in comfort on a node that could offer it. The job owners are content, knowing that each request was treated with the same dignified procedure. If you trace a single bit of heat that rises from a transistor, you can imagine it traveling upward as a tiny, silent plume into the lid of the package, into the cold plate, into the coolant, through the manifold, into the heat exchanger, into a secondary loop, and finally into the building's ultimate heat rejection, perhaps evaporating into the sky above. The journey is entirely without drama, a smooth ascent from a small place to a large one. That bit of heat does not linger. It does not accumulate into hotspots that cause concern. It simply moves on. The machine records nothing of it except a fractional shift in a decimal place on a monitoring screen, which soon returns to normal. The sound of the pumps is like a gentle affirmation that everything is still connected, still moving. If you pause, the rhythm is there, not mechanical in an abrasive way, but mechanical in a soothing way, like the motion of a train moving at a constant speed on smooth tracks. The comparison is not a call to travel, but a reminder of constancy. The supercomputer is going nowhere, and in its stillness, it carries many minds toward their destinations, letting them rest while it runs. In the background, environmental controls perform tests of their own, verifying sensors against reference values, recalibrating without fuss. Procedures are written for infrequent events, but they read as if describing ordinary tasks, because here, even the rarest tasks are rehearsed in imagination until they feel familiar. The team that maintains the system trusts their routines. They trust the machine to tell the truth with its metrics. The result is a calm partnership. You might now sense your own heartbeat matching the measured cycles of this place. And if that feels pleasant, you can let it continue. The system has its own heartbeat too, in the periodicity of its scheduler loop, in the rotation of its pumps, in the quiet turn of its fans where they exist. That alignment is natural and gentle. It asks nothing, it encourages rest. In time, the job that you imagined earlier, the one that waited politely, finishes. It writes its results to storage. It releases its nodes. The scheduler notes the completion and advances the next job. There are no announcements. The action is as quiet as a page being turned in a soft-bound book. In another part of the queue, an array of small tests completes almost at once, and the scheduler absorbs this new availability, filling the freed space with jobs that had been waiting nearby. The equilibrium remains. The machine, with its long rows and subtle lights, could be mistaken for a collection of boxes. But you now sense the interior life, the steady policy decisions that keep it fair, the patient flows that keep it cool, the predictable timing that keeps it productive. From this perspective, it is more like a calm river system and a mindful librarian combined, a place where pathways and pages are organized so that each drop and each book arrives in good order and leaves in better order. The monotone cold continues to be your companion as you stand in this space, or as you recline, imagining it. It is not an austere cold. It is the absence of heat anxiety. It lets every part of you and of the machine relax into reliability. You might think of that when you close your eyes, a steady coolness that keeps your thoughts from racing, assuring you that nothing urgent is demanded. The queue moves slowly, but it moves. The coolant holds its temperature, but it welcomes whatever small variation appears and smooths it away, the way the surface of a lake regains its calm after a leaf touches down. And as the supercomputer keeps its unhurried promise, you keep your own slow pace, settling further into comfort, letting your breathing track the gentle beat of loops and logs. A light remains on in the corner of the machine room, and it will still be on later, and still later, keeping watch. You do not need to check on it. The staff will check in the morning. The scheduler will check continuously. The coolant will check every second by its simply being there, proving itself with each return to the radiator, each measured delta. Everything is and remains serene. If you choose to rest now, you can let that thought stay with you, a place where long queues are not frustrations, but patient lines leading to quiet resolution. A place where liquid cooling is not a spectacle, but a heartbeat. A place where the cold is a constant friend. You are safe in that knowing, with nothing surprising waiting around the corner. In this soft conclusion, I wish you a night of easy sleep and steady calm. If you enjoyed this gentle journey, feel free to subscribe and leave a like so we can continue releasing videos like this, quietly and often, helping you unwind whenever you need it. Rest well and good night.